how we have survived. Made others sacrifice in the name of our prosperity. Who are you, a human, to defy our traditions?
Hello everybody, this is the King of Pikmin here yet again, and today we're going to be talking about something a little different from my channel, and that is what my thoughts are for if the Doomslayer makes it into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. So a quick rundown of what I want to talk about today. We're going to start with the moveset and the gimmicks that I have planned for the Doomslayer, because of course that's why everybody's here. And then we're going to shift gears and go down the cosmetic route, and I'm going to talk about my ideas for skins, music, stage, things of that nature. Now, I know plenty of people have already thrown their hat in the ring as far as this goes. If you've been around my channel, you know I'm a huge fan of Doom, and I would love to see him make it into Super Smash Bros., so I just wanted to throw my hat in that ring as well. Last thing I want to say before we get started is I very mildly take into account balance. This is more just what I'd like to see from the Doomslayer, so I'm not going to be given super specific numbers or anything like that, just more basic moves and whatnot. I do want to say there are mild spoilers in this video if you have not played the Ancient Gods Part 2 for Doom Eternal, because I'm going to be implementing an equipment that you get in that DLC into this moveset. So if you don't want to know what that, item is until you've played Doom Eternal, then come back. But, I just wanted to give you guys a warning just in case. I'm actually going to start with the Doomguy's gimmicks because I feel like they will be important to know before we get into the core moveset. You'll see what I mean when we get there. So to start, he's going to have ammunition. I'll get more into the specifics as far as what weapons he'll have and everything once we get to the moveset. But what I am going to do, every weapon's going to have its own separate ammo to keep track of. I know that sounds like a lot, but he's not going to have every weapon from the game. And the way you're going to get this ammo back is from landing grabs, because 2 of his throws will utilize the chainsaw. And if you played the games, you know that chainsawing opponents gives you ammo. The other gimmick I had planned for the Doomslayer is to allow him to glory kill. I know this one will probably be pretty controversial for some people, but I think it's a core part of the more modern Doom games, and it'd be criminal to not include it. Before everyone gets too up in arms, I do have some stipulations for this glory kill, and one of the most important ones being Doomguy will not be able to glory kill the opponent until that opponent is at 175% or higher. And he will also only be able to glory kill with 2 methods. One of his special moves that we'll get into later, and grabs. If he grabs an opponent who is glory killable, an animation will play that will instantly kill the opponent. And of course, once the opponent hits 175%, they'll have that orange and blue glow from the games to signify they are in a glory kill state. One last thing I want to say about the glory kill mechanic is it will actually heal Doomslayer slightly. I don't want it to be anything crazy like 20%, maybe like 10% or 15%, but he gets a little healed just to reference the fact that Doomslayer is aggressive and takes down his opponents to get resources, and in the games, glory killing gives you health, so I feel like losing some percent would be a nice touch. With that out of the way, let's get into the moveset. I'm only going to get into the core moveset of Doomguy. I don't want to get into things such as his get up attack from ledge or his wake up attack after being knocked down, because those are usually fairly generic attacks for all characters. With that being said, let's start with his jab. I want him to have his blood punch. I know it sounds a little odd probably to most people, giving him such a powerful attack from the games to his jab of all things, but if you look at someone like Ganondorf, he's got a single hit jab that does like 14%, so it's not too out of left field. If you're not familiar with the blood punch from the games, it's when the Doomslayer punches in front of him and on contact with a demon, does a shockwave around him that does massive damage to all those nearby. He has 2 charges of blood punch in the games, and they are refilled by performing glory kills, and I want it to work the same way in the game. It's not going to be too often you're getting glory kills based on the moveset I've given him, so you don't have to be too worried about that. Without any charges of blood punch, the punch will be heavily weakened, doing much less damage and little to no knockback. Perhaps blood punch would even be powerful enough to kill at high percents, and that'll leave it to the player. Do you want to use blood punch early for damage, or do you want to save it for a quick kill option later on in the match? I think it would be a pretty neat and unique mechanic to have on a jab. For his dash attack, I want him to have a shoulder charge. That probably sounds like a cop-out because so many characters already do have a shoulder charge on their dash attack, but his would be a little different, and when he puts his shoulder down, he uses his flame belch from the games. The flame would add a little bit of damage and keep them in place for long enough for his shoulder to land and send them flying. Let's get into his tilt attacks now. For his forward tilt, I would take reference from Doom 2016, where Doomguy could melee with his guns. For his forward tilt, it would be a two-part tilt attack where the Doomslayer pulls out his pistol, swings it at his opponent. If it connects, launches the opponent backwards, and then the player has the choice of pressing attack again to take a shot at the opponent with the pistol. The thing I would find fun about this attack is you could actually choose the timing. You could stall it a little longer so the shot comes out later. For reference, if you hit a person that's at low percents, they don't get launched as far, so doing the shot right after would probably combo. At higher percents where the opponent is launched further away, the shot probably won't be guaranteed, but if you stall and take the shot a little later, it might be harder for your opponent to dodge. For his down tilt, it would be one of Doomslayer's favorite pastimes, stomping his opponents. Not just any stomp though, he would use the thrusters in his boots to launch himself up and then come crashing down with a heavy stomp. The boost would be high enough where he could get over low attacks such as Joker's slide or Sephiroth's slide, or maybe even small opponents such as Pichu or Kirby. If the stomp lands directly above the opponent, they would be buried and he could maybe follow up with more attacks. My idea for his up tilt is where things get a little bit crazy. If you played Doom Eternal, you know he has a shoulder-mounted grenade launcher. His up tilt is going to utilize that, but I'm doing away with the freeze grenade option. And instead, he's just going to launch a frag grenade straight above him that will travel a set distance and then explode. He can't alter the distance, it's always the same, and the grenade itself has no hitbox, and neither does he, only the explosion, so spacing it properly will be key, but it will be very rewarding as it will have heavy knockback and damage. With his tilt attacks said and done, let's talk about his aerials. For his nair, he would unleash a steady stream of his flame belch directly in front of him. It wouldn't have very much knockback, but it would do decent damage and linger for quite a while. Linger for so long, in fact, that he can use it midair and fastball so that it leaves pretty much a wall of fire directly in front of him. For his forward air, he would pull out the heavy cannon and utilize the precision bolt mod to take a long distance shot at his opponent. This move would be extremely precise and have slow startup and a lot of recovery to counteract how powerful it would be. It wouldn't be a full screen attack, but it would have really good range. But again, with the slow startup and extreme precise nature, landing the hits would be difficult, but if you do, you are heavily rewarded. If you miss, you can be darn sure your opponent's going to have time to punish you though. For Doomguy's up air, I want him to utilize his newly acquired Doomblade. He would look up and stab directly above him. It's a very simple move, but hey, Doomslayer's efficient, no need for anything fancy. We have another simple one here, boys and girls, but again, he's efficient. For his back air, he would pull out the Slayer's Crucible and stab it directly behind him into his opponent, sending them flying. Now would probably be a good time for me to point out my idea for the Doomslayer would be for him to carry his trusty super shotgun when not utilizing other weapons. The reason I want to say this now is because his down air is going to be pointing the super shotgun directly beneath him and pulling the trigger. You do not want to be caught under him, because if you're caught in the cone of that shotgun blast, the knockback is going to be devastating and it will spike you to the ground. And of course, if you're off stage, it's going to dunk you straight to the blast zone. How could I make a Doomslayer moveless video and not give him a super shotgun attack that dunks his opponents? That would just be too satisfying. I also want to mention the super shotgun is the first weapon I've mentioned that is going to have its own ammo counter. Let's get into the smash attacks now. For the forward smash, we're going to stick with the super shotgun theme. Upon performing the forward smash, the Doomslayer would stand in place, allowing the player to charge the smash attack, but upon releasing, he would just pull the trigger and fire the shotgun directly in front of him. Being a shotgun, it would be a cone in front of him, spreading out a little bit above and below the Slayer, and it would have massive knockback and damage. One thing I forgot to mention with the down air is if you don't have ammo for the super shotgun, the down air will be unavailable to you. The forward smash, however, if you do not have super shotgun ammo, the Slayer would just use the butt of the shotgun as a melee weapon and swing towards the opponent. This would be a lot less powerful. My idea for his up smash is a little less unique, I suppose, but I just want him to have a move where he just punches the opponent really hard. The punch I'm talking about is a Superman punch, a little bit above and in front of the Doomslayer. What I mean by this is when you go to charge the up smash, the Doomslayer would crouch down a little bit and look up, and then when you decide to release, he jumps and punches a little bit above and in front of him. This move would be rather precise, but it would also have super armor. This would give Doomguy a method of dealing with opponents who are jumping around and trying to land on him with aerial attacks. He'd absorb the hit and punch them straight into the blast zone. Now let's talk about his down smash. This is the one I was warning you guys about in the very beginning of the video. My idea for the down smash utilizes the new equipment from the Ancient Gods Part 2, so if you haven't played that yet and don't want to know what that equipment is, I'd tune out now. I would have the down smash utilize the Sentinel Hammer that the Doomslayer acquired from Commander Valen in the new DLC. If you played the DLC, you know when used, this hammer creates a shockwave around the Slayer, stunning and damaging demons nearby. For the purposes of Smash, I would not have the hammer stun. Instead, I would just have it knock back and do damage. In order to pay homage to the source material, it could do really heavy shield damage, so if an opponent does decide to block the hammer, it would actually stun them because their shield would be broken. As far as the animation, in the games he jumps and slams it into the ground, and I think it should be the same. When you charge the down smash, he should crouch down with the hammer out, and then as soon as you release it, he does a short hop and slams it into the ground. This would give opponents a decent amount of time to dodge, that way immediately breaking the shield wouldn't be too broken and they would have time to react and dodge. Block it though and you're in big trouble. That does it for the smash attacks, and now we're going to get into the special moves. These are all going to be fairly difficult to explain, so try to bear with me. Let's start with his recovery, or his up B. This would be a direct reference to Doom Eternal, as in that game, very early on in the main campaign, he gets access to 2 dashes that he can use airborne or on the ground. This would carry over to Super Smash Bros. Upon pressing up B, the Doomslayer would pause in place for extremely briefly, allowing the player to choose a direction, and he can dash in any direction he wants. He would have 2 of these charges, and it would only be replenished upon hitting the ground. That's right, if you get hit, you don't get these dashes back, because as in the games, you don't get it back until you hit the ground. Now it sounds like it would be an awful recovery, right? I don't think it will be, just because, just like in the games, you can act at any point during the dashes. So you can jump, use one dash, jump again, use the other dash. Or you could dash once, throw out an attack, jump. You get the idea. Any combination, it would never put you into free fall. But if you use both your dashes and they get hit without a jump, there's no way you're making it back to stage. So use them carefully. And of course you could use these on the ground or in the air. Dashing directly into an opponent would cause very minor knockback and just interrupt them, so you can actually use it offensively. Hopefully I explained that properly. Let me just do one more rundown just to be safe. You get access to 2 dashes, you can use them on the ground or in the air, and they only recharge once your feet hit the ground. You can utilize any of your moves, special moves, jumps at any point without going into free fall with these dashes, just like in the games. One last thing I'll mention that I think would be fun, there's a Praetor suit upgrade that you can get in the games that upon performing a glory kill, you get your dashes back. I think that it would be pretty neat to have that in the game. Let's say there's an opponent that's 175% or more and they're off stage. You use all your resources to go after them, but then you land that glory kill, which I'll get into how you would do that airborne in a minute. You get your dashes back and you can make it back to stage. So it's high risk but high reward if you do it. Now let's talk about his side special. As mentioned before, the Doomslayer would carry his super shotgun by default. Part of the reason for that is because of this side special, as he will utilize his newly acquired meat hook attached to the shotgun. Those of you familiar with Doom Eternal will know full well what this does. Those of you who aren't, it is a hook attached to the bottom of his shotgun that has a chain along with it. He fires it at a demon. Upon hitting a demon, the Doomslayer is then pulled towards them, allowing him to get point blank and deal massive damage with the shotgun. It would work the same way in Super Smash Bros. Upon pressing side special, he would fire the meat hook directly in front of him a decent distance. If it connects with an opponent, he would then be pulled towards them. Pressing the attack button while being pulled the opponent would see him fire his shotgun. Of course, a shotgun deals the most damage up close, so if you press it too early, you would deal less damage and less knockback. Press it at the perfect time though, it would be devastating. Press the button too late or not at all, and the Doomslayer would then instead hold the shotgun to the side and punch his opponent. This would be the weakest option of the 3. Much like the source material, while being pulled towards the opponent, you could press jump to detach the chain and jump above the opponent without using your double jump. This could be used to set up a downward shotgun blast or anything you want. A few more things to say about the meat hook are, if you land the meat hook on an opponent who is grounded, you can then, instead of pressing the attack button for a shotgun blast, press the grab button to land a free grab. This is helpful because of course the chainsaw is locked to the grabs and that's the only way to get ammo back. Now would be a good time to mention if you don't have ammo, of course you just get the punch. You won't be able to fire the shotgun. I want to talk a little bit about glory kills now as well, because as mentioned, glory kills are only accessible from grabs outside of the meat hook. If the opponent is airborne and you land the meat hook on them, instead of pressing the button to do a shotgun blast or a punch, the Doomslayer would automatically perform a glory kill on an opponent that is 175% health or more. That about does it for the meat hook. As you can see, you have a lot of options just like in Doom. I'm going to talk about Doomguy's down special and neutral special at the same time as they go hand in hand. His down special would be the weapon wheel. And now, before you go crazy thinking he's going to have a million weapons at his disposal, I've personally chosen 3. Those weapons are the minigun, the plasma rifle, and the rocket launcher, and they all have very different effects. Choosing a weapon with the weapon wheel would see the Doomslayer stow a weapon. The icon of his stowed weapon would appear next to his icon in the bottom of the screen next to his percent. Once a weapon is stowed, pressing neutral B would see the Doomslayer equip the weapon. He would lose access to all his moves except for down B and jumping. The reason he's locked out of everything else is because he then equips that weapon and keeps it out until neutral B is pressed again. The reason for this is because he's going to be locked facing the direction he was when he equipped the weapon, but will have freedom of movement and aiming. Now bear with me here, I'm going to try to explain it as best I can, but he's not going to be able to turn around because he's going to be able to aim like a full 90 degrees in front of him. He can look straight up, straight down, and anywhere in between, but he cannot turn around. This is controlled with the left stick. You still move with the left stick, but when you point it up, down, or forward, or any direction in between, he also aims the weapon in that direction. Pressing the attack button would see him fire the chosen weapon. Hopefully you guys see what I'm saying. I wish I had more visual evidence to show you as to my plans, but I didn't draw anything up because it's kind of a one-off video. I'd be happy to answer any questions in the comments below. All 3 of these weapons would have their own ammo counts and could only be replenished with a chainsaw as mentioned before. Now to go over the weapons themselves, let's start with the minigun. Now the minigun would literally do 0 knockback, not even flinch the opponents, but it would rack up damage extremely fast. What I mean by this is an opponent would be able to just walk straight through the bullets, but their percent would go up high. Blocking the minigun is extremely safe as it won't do very much shield damage at all. The main use for the minigun is to deal damage so that you can get the killing blows. And maybe you're fishing for a glory kill and you want to get them high on percent without killing them, well, the minigun's probably your best bet. Once the minigun is out, hold down the A button and use the left stick to aim wherever you want. Spray the battlefield until you run out of ammo. Don't get too comfortable blocking though, because if he quick swaps to that plasma rifle, it exceeds at breaking shields, just like in Doom. You're sitting there comfortable blocking the minigun, waiting for his ammo to run out, he quick swaps to the plasma rifle and breaks your shield, you're not going to be having a good time. Outside of breaking shields, the plasma rifle would do flinching damage so that the opponents couldn't just walk through it, they'd have to jump over or get around it some way, but it would do much less damage than the minigun. So I heard you wanted some big damage and kill power. That's where the rocket launcher comes in. The rocket launcher comes equipped with remote detonate, so pressing the attack button would see the Doomslayer fire a rocket, pressing it again would see him detonate it wherever it is at the time he pressed the button. This would be one of his best ways to rack up kills. One thing to be cautious of though is it will have self-damage just like in Doom, and it would be hefty. Medium to high percents, you might end up killing yourself if you fire too close to your opponent. And keep in mind, he has freedom of aiming, so he could stand on the ledge and shoot down if he wanted to. I know that sounds kind of broken, but hey, that's just the plan I have for the Doomguy. As far as ammo counts go, I'm not going to get into the details here, but they would have to have a minor amount of ammo so he couldn't just spam all these things like crazy, especially rockets. Maybe like 3 or 4 rockets, 20 minigun ammo, and so on and so forth. Like I said, I'm not going to give too many specific details, but they'd have to tweak the ammo numbers to balance this out. Using these weapons off stage is possible, but it would be dangerous because you'd have to put it away to use your recovery. Without it, you can't turn and you can't use any of your special moves. That's one thing to keep in mind. Hopefully you guys understand what I was saying, and that does it for the moveset, so we're going to move into more cosmetic things now. To start, I want to talk about glory kill and throw animations. These are obviously up to interpretation and could be whatever the developers want them to be, but here are some ideas I had. One thing I think would be neat is if for grounded glory kills, he had different animations for different size types. Like let's say Kirby, Pikachu, Pichu, he'd have one animation, and then for big characters like Bowser or Ridley, he'd have another. These glory kills would often end with an opponent quote-unquote popping. And when I don't mean blood and guts, I mean like the smoke. There's certain things in Smash Brothers that just kill the opponent outright, and it's not in a gruesome fashion. Try to imagine that as what I'm talking about when I say pop. So to start with the smaller characters like I mentioned, Pikachu, Kirby, things like that, what he would do, he would just knock them down and then step on them, and that would see them do the little popping animation, and that would be one glory kill. For the medium-sized humanoid characters such as Snake, Bayonetta, those types of things, all the sword users, all of these glory kills are taken straight from the game. The stomp, obviously something Doomslayer does all the time, and then for these medium-sized characters, what he would do is sweep the leg and then turn towards the camera, grab them by the chest and legs, and then bring his knee up into their back, doing a backbreaker. And then this again would see them pop. And then for the large characters, I'm going to take reference from a glory kill that Doomslayer does on the Tyrant. It would see him grab onto the opponent, kind of like Ganondorf or Falcon do with their recovery moves, and then stab the opponent multiple times with his Doom Blade. And then, yet again, you guessed it, the opponent would pop. Now for the meat hook glory kill on an airborne opponent would be the same on all opponents. He would meat hook towards them, and when he gets close, uppercut them into the air, use the boosters to catch up to them, grab them, pull them down, and then punch them straight towards the ground. Upon hitting the ground, the opponent would then pop, and if you're off stage, the opponent would just go straight into the blast zone, the ultimate dunk. If you have any other ideas for glory kills, be sure to let me know in the comments below. I'm always down to hear some. Now let's talk about my ideas for throw animations. His up and back throws would be the chainsaw animations that give him ammo. For his back throw, he would simply grab his opponent, spin them around, and then slash at them horizontally with the chainsaw, yielding him ammo for all of his weapons. Now one thing I want to mention is these chainsaw throws would deal the least damage and knockback on opponents because they give the ammo. So you got to choose, do you want the knockback and damage, or do you want the ammo? And then for the up throw, it might be a little too brutal for the game, but again, this is just what I would like to see. Upon performing the up throw, the Doomslayer would pull out the chainsaw, launch the opponent into the air, and then stab straight up with the chainsaw, holding them on it for a brief second, and then they go flying. Again, when I say go flying, they wouldn't go very far, and they wouldn't take much damage, but he'd get that ammo. His down throw could be a combo starter, maybe lead into taking shots at the opponent with his forward air that's the precision bolt from the heavy cannon, or things of that nature. The animation would be ripped straight from a glory kill from Doom. The glory kill I'm talking about is on the Carcass. He would grab the opponent, lean back, and deliver a really powerful headbutt on the opponent, bouncing them off the floor and into the air and then in front of the Doomslayer. Now his forward throw would be the heaviest knockback and damage of all the throws, and would actually be a kill throw near the ledge. It would see the Doomslayer grab their shoulder, stab them with the Doom Blade, and then punch them off the blade. As mentioned, this could kill opponents that are at high percents. Now for the fun part, we're going to talk about the final smash. Bear with me yet again. I know you've had to use your imagination for most of these moves before, but you're really going to have to use your imagination for this one because I don't have too much reference material. The activation would see the Doomslayer fire a volley of ice grenades directly in a line in front of him. Anyone hit by the ice grenade would be frozen solid. The first enemy hit would then be targeted by the Doomslayer, who would then charge in and grab them. It would then zoom in and transition to an animation of the Doomslayer turning and throwing the opponent straight up. And then you had to have seen it coming. After throwing the opponent straight up, he whips out the famous BFG. He aims it directly up and fires it after the opponent he just threw. The locale then changes, and you see the opponent that was tossed by the Doomslayer hit the surface of Mars. They get up and start looking around as imps and other demons start closing in on them, but then of course you hear that BFG shot, that famous noise. The opponent looks up, and the BFG shot comes in hot and decimates the surface of Mars, the opponent and the demons included, dealing massive damage and knockback. Now let's talk about his skins. I'm not going to be too specific here. I think it's fairly obvious that he needs his look from Doom Eternal and the original Doom. I'm not too particular on colors. He just needs his classic green for both, and then maybe blue and red for the other alternates. One thing I would like to say is I would like an extra alternate for his Praetor suit from Doom 2016 without any color alteration. Doom 2016 really brought the franchise back, and I think it should be represented in some way. So we get three, I think we should get 3 Doom Eternal skins, 3 OG Doomguy skins, and 1 Doom 2016 Praetor suit. Now, one thing I want to mention about the Doomguy skins is when you select that skin, all the weapons would have the unique original sound effects from the original Doom games. And even more unique and specific, any of you who played the original Doom know that Doomguy's face was at the bottom, and the more damage he took, the more beat up he looked. And then, of course, in Super Smash Bros., the character icons are at the bottom of the screen. How perfect and amazing would it be is if you selected Doomguy, instead of just that still image, it was actually his face looking around just like in the classic games. The higher percent you get, he gets some bruises, nothing too crazy like in the old games, no bleeding nose, no cuts, but maybe a bruise or two, and he definitely looks more tired. Landing powerful hits, you could see him smiling right at the camera. I don't know. Just imagine it with me, guys. He takes damage, he grimaces. He takes down an opponent, he gives us that cheeky grin. That would just make me so happy seeing that, so I think that would be an awesome, neat addition. Between the classic gun sound effects and seeing his animated face straight from the old games, I would be in heaven. Now let's talk about his taunts. His first taunt could be taken straight from Doom Eternal and referenced when he first gains his Crucible. He pulls out the Crucible, activates it, holds it close to his face, and then all while doing it, his green spectral wolf from the games that leads him around could walk out from behind him and howl as he holds his Crucible up towards the sky. For his second taunt, I think it'd be awesome if he had an OG animation ripped straight from the old games. Not necessarily a Doomguy animation, but a shotgunner animation. You could see him walk in place and then take a shot at the camera with his shotgun. The animation would be choppy just like the sprite back in the old days. This would look especially nostalgic if you're wearing his classic Doomguy suit. And for his final taunt, it would have to be the Doom Shuffle. Those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it's right here on screen. Now let's talk about his stage. This is going to contain heavy spoilers for the Ancient Gods Part 2, so again, if you haven't played that yet, don't watch this part. At first I thought maybe the Sentinel homeworld could be his stage, or maybe the Slayer's fortress floating around in space, or maybe even Hell on Earth. But after the Ancient Gods Part 2, I know what I want his stage to be. I want it to be the siege on Amora. I'm of course referring to when the Sentinel army, led by the Doomslayer, made one last assault on the Dark Lord.
Let hell tremble before our might!
Just imagine it. You're fighting, and in the background, you see the Sentinels and the Demons of Hell going at it. There could be stage hazards of Sentinel catapults hitting the stage. There could be demonic dragons flying by. Even Titans in the background duking it out with the Sentinel Atlans, just like in the games. Once I saw that, I knew that that had to be the stage for the Doomslayer if he were ever added. Last thing I want to talk about is the music. Really, for me, if you get a mix of new Doom and classic Doom, like those famous songs from back in the day, with some of the more popular ones from today, I'd be happy. Really, any songs they pick, I would be happy, so I'm not even going to give my recommendations here, to be honest with you. And that about does it, I believe, boys and girls. Hopefully you enjoyed my take. Let me know what you thought. And I just know if they added the Doomslayer, I'd be extremely happy. I'm sure I'm not the only one. So thank you so much for tuning in. Let's keep our fingers crossed that we get to rip and tear, not only in Doom, but also in the battlefield of Super Smash Bros.
The only thing they fear is you.